Good evening, everybody. We'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Cleveland Heights Board of Zoning Appeals for February 18th, 2026. The time is 7 o'clock. All members except Ms. Wolf is present. Mr. Alden is serving as our alternate today. Welcome, Mr. Alden. So we certainly have a quorum. Although for the first item, the approval of minutes, only 3 members who were here last month are present, so we're not able to, we don't have a quorum for purpose of approving the minutes. We'll defer that till next month. All right. As we do every meeting, we explain what we're doing here this evening for the benefit of everyone here. And this is the purpose and procedures for tonight's meeting. The hearings you're about to experience are quasi-judicial in nature, and certain formalities must be followed as if this were a court of law. Anyone who wishes to speak about a case will first be placed under oath. For each case, city staff will make a presentation, and then each applicant will present his, her, or its case, stating the practical difficulty for which we are being asked to grant a variance. The board will then open a public hearing to obtain testimony from any other persons interested in the case. The applicant will have an opportunity to respond to the testimony from the public, and as with everybody this evening, all comments will be addressed to the board. The board will ask questions of staff and of the applicant, and based on all the evidence in the record, the board will make findings of fact and render its decision by motion. The formal nature of these proceedings is necessary because each applicant is asking for an extraordinary remedy called a variance. A variance is formal permission by the city for an individual or entity to not comply with a portion of the municipal zoning ordinances, which is binding on all others. In making its decision as to whether to grant a standard variance, and the variances we have before us today are all standard variances, the board will weigh those factors set out forth in our zoning code in section 1115.07E1, and those are up on the screen now. The burden is upon the applicant to demonstrate by a preponderance of the evidence that the literal enforcement of the zoning code would result in a practical difficulty. Preponderance of the evidence means that the applicant has proved his, her, or its position is more likely than not true. The applicant must demonstrate circumstances unique to the physical character of his, her, or its property. Personal difficulties, personal hardships, or inconvenience are not relevant to the board's determination. And this board is the final administrative decision maker for all regular variances. With that, we can proceed to hearing on the matters before us. The first is calendar number 3622, the application of 2211 Lee Road Owner LLC, located at 2211 Lee Road in a C2X multiple use district, requesting 2 variances. First, to code section 1161.03C1 to permit the loss of 4 parking spaces for a new retail use, and to code section 1161.07A to permit a drive-through window with less than 10 waiting spaces. Now, would anyone wishing to testify in this matter, please stand if able to be sworn in.
Please affirm that you will testify to the truth.
Excellent. Now, there are 2 separate variances being requested. Each one of them are decided on their own merits. And as you'll see, the board will have the choice when we get to that part of the proceedings to either proceed with those one at a time or to take the 2 together. That is at the board's discretion. All right. Now, we'll turn to the staff presentation, but before that, can I ask that the staff report dated February 13th, 2026 be entered into the record? Seeing no objections, hearing no objections, the report is so entered. Please proceed with the presentation. Oh, before you begin, Ms. Canilla, it's good to have you here this evening. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is calendar number 3622, 2211 Lee Road Owner LLC at 2211 Lee Road, a C2X multiple use district, requesting the 2 variances previously described. 2211 Lee Road is a mixed-use building in a C2X multiple use district. The property is at the northeast corner of Lee Road and Tullamore Road. All properties immediately around 2211 Lee Road are zoned C2X multiple use. The master plan future land use map shows that the parcel will be used for mixed use, commercial, and retail purposes. The applicant proposes adding a drive-through to the rear of an existing mixed-use building. The parcel is a code-conforming lot in terms of area and width. The parcel is 18,405 square feet in area and approximately 123 feet wide at the building line. A C2X multiple-use parcel has no minimum area or width requirements. According to county records, the building was constructed in 1925. The building has 5 commercial spaces. 3 of those spaces are occupied. Those businesses use the mailing addresses between 2199 and 2211 Lee Road. For the context of this presentation, 2211 Lee Road refers to the entire parcel. The second floor of the building has 11 dwelling units. From time to time, we'll do a brief code background. I just wanted to reiterate the purpose of the multiple use district, which is stated in chapter 1131.01C, which says that the C2X multiple use district is established to provide standards for the continued operation of mixed use neighborhoods, to provide for dense mixed uses along main thoroughfares, to concentrate mixed use buildings to promote and encourage pedestrian activity. Parking and driveways are generally located so as to not disrupt the pedestrian activity. Drive-throughs are permitted in the C2X district, and there are 5 supplemental standards relevant to drive-throughs in chapter 1153.05L. I wanted to briefly show those. So those standards describe that the facility should be located to be as least disruptive to pedestrian traffic. It also describes a requirement for buffer yards. The Planning Commission may impose restrictions on the hours of operation. It also describes required screening too of the headlights.
Could you go back to that, please?
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. 2211 Lee Road has 4 parking spaces behind the building, which is code conforming because of an exception for existing buildings in commercial districts. The parking spaces are currently used as employee parking. The parking will be removed for the proposed drive-through and requires a variance. Customers will enter the proposed drive-through from Tullamore Road and then turn back onto Tullamore Road or continue north and exit onto Cedar Road. The proposed drive-through has 3 waiting spaces, which requires a variance. Code section 1161.07A requires a minimum of 10 waiting spaces for a drive-through facility. Deliveries currently go to the parking area behind the building. With the proposed drive-through, delivery vehicles will enter the drive-through and then move to an area between the generator enclosure and a parking space for the adjacent tenant, retail tenant. This first photo is from Lee Road looking down Tullamore. So the drive-through would be right after that black fence that you see there.
Okay.
Good, okay. This is further down Tullamore. This area with the dumpster is the drop-off location for March and Manor Cheese, which is the adjacent retail center. Moving further down, on the left side of this image is where there'll be an additional parking space for March and Manor Cheese, and the delivery location will be for the applicant. Towards the right side of this entry is where the drive-through will begin. This photo shows roughly the path that the cars will follow. So the cars will continue along the wall on the right, go through where the porta potty is currently located, and then back onto the access road to the right. I spoke with the property maintenance team for the Marquee, which is the adjacent residential building, and the people who are developing the new apartment building, seen towards the back of this image. And they noted that they did not object to the drive-through so long as that access road on the right continues to be 2-way. Just another look at that same area. Now looking back towards Tullamore Road. If a car was to continue towards Cedar, it would go past this area, which includes some back patios, rear entrances, and dumpsters for neighboring restaurants. The traffic was to exit back onto Tullamore. They would head this direction and pass the way they came in. One important thing to note is that there's no access onto Tullamore from Lee Road. Those bollards you see are normally chained, but are open at this moment for construction. Since the applicant mentioned that their employees will park in the Lee Road garage, I checked how full the garage was earlier today. The first and second floor were about 50% full, but the first floor is only open to residents of the Marquee development. The third and fourth floors were completely empty. It was at 10 today. Immediately across the street too, there was another surface parking lot that was completely empty at the time that I visited the district. But it's important to note that many of the businesses in this section of Lee Road near the applicant are restaurants or bars that were not open at the time that I was there. Further down the road, the surface parking lot between Meadowbrook and Silsby was nearly full. So that section of Lee Road has Stone Oven, Phoenix Coffee, and many more businesses that were open during that time. In summary, if approved, conditions should include calendar number 3622 is granted to code section 1161.017A. Wait, excuse the typo. Calendar number 3622 is granted to code section 1161.03C1 to permit 0 parking spaces as shown on the drawing submitted to BZA dated January 11th, 2026. To code section 1161.07A to permit a drive-through window with 3 waiting spaces as shown on the drawing submitted to BZA dated January 11, 2026. Vehicles waiting for the drive-through window shall not queue onto Tullamore Road. Approval of a conditional use permit from the Planning Commission, receipt of a building permit, and complete construction within 18 months of the effective date of the variance. Thank you.
A couple of questions. I'll jump in front of the board here, but I'm having a little I'm just trying to visualize this. I think I see the entrance from Tullamore on the south side of the drive-through, right? And you said that when the drivers exit, they can either make a sharp right turn back on Tullamore, back to the Lee Road. That's one egress. All right, if they're going to go north, right now they can't do that, right, because of the construction?
That's correct.
When do we think the construction is going to be done? Anyone have a guess?
Well, I know I believe within the next, based on when the variances were extended last year, we gave them 4 years to extend those variances. So I think within the next 3 years at them.
So there could be a considerable period of time in which there is no egress heading north to Cedar Road, correct?
So they're working on those apartments that burned, and so they're just bringing those back to life. Their intent is to bring them back to life as quickly as possible, but it's hard for me to say how long that construction is going to be there. I mean, their intent is to be less than 4 years. That was the furthest window that we could give them, and that was just in case they needed it.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm trying to picture this because when the plan says you can head north to Cedar, we're talking several years possibly before that happens. So everyone's going to have to make that sharp right turn. I'll ask the applicant what their hours are, what hours because as you know, on Thursday, Friday, Saturday night for the movie and restaurant traffic, there's a lot of folks going there. So I'll ask the applicant that. All right, other members.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
In regards to that sharp right turn, do you know if they have done turning movements to ensure that vehicles can make that sharp right turn? Because that looks very sharp. And if vehicles are parked in those parking spaces, I'm not sure if anyone will be able to even make that turn out of the driveway.
Thank you for the question. I'm not aware, but I would defer that to the applicant.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Question, are there any other commercial properties that have drive-throughs in this area that are similar or not similar or dissimilar to this? How would this compare? I understand this is a unique case and that's why it's here, but do we have anything to compare it to in the area?
The closest property that I'm aware of would be the Wendy's along Cedar Road, which is this building, I believe. And to my knowledge, they have more than 3 waiting spaces. But I'm not aware of any variances granted at that property, or if they have the full 10 spaces.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Is a drive-through required for this business, or is this something that they want? Is there some reason that it's required?
So from a zoning perspective, a drive-through is conditionally permitted. So there's no zoning requirement that says they must have a drive-through.
Okay, thank you.
Have we, if I may, have we measured that drive-through to see how many, it's less than 10. How many less than 10 do we know? If we could look at a diagram again.
So
I think we've had other drawings that would show, yeah.
there's room for 3 cars. Waiting.
And if more than 3 cars want to be in line, where's that 4th car go?
So one condition that we're suggesting is that those cars may not queue onto Tullamore Road, which is echoed in the standards for drive-through.
Was that enforced?
Practically, I don't know.
Other questions? All right, if there are other questions, if the applicant could please approach the microphone, applicant's representative, whoever wishes to speak, been sworn in. Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Absolutely. Joe Andulix with Greenbud. We are now at 1200 West 10th Street, Suite 101, Cleveland, Ohio.
Thank you.
My name is David Kaplan. I'm with Oliver Architecture in Cleveland, Ohio. It's 7100 Euclid Avenue, Suite 200 in Cleveland, Ohio.
Thank you. What we're going to ask you to do is to make the presentation you wish to make relevant to the request for the variance. You've heard some of the questions, but certainly there'll be more. And one thing we note that may not always be clear is that when we grant a variance, it isn't to the applicant, it is to the property, so that any subsequent owner of the property, which is any permitted use, gets the benefit of the variance that we grant, which is why I stated earlier that conditions unique or special to this specific applicant don't help us as much as to why this is a unique property requiring a variance that binds everybody else in our city. But with that, and again, and to the extent to which you saw the factors that drive our decision, again, I'm not going to tell you how to present, but it is helpful to this board to help explain how what you're going to present meets and helps us make the decision on those factors. So with that.
Absolutely. Let me give you a quick background into Standard Wellness, our parent company. So we are a multi-state operator for adult use cannabis and medical cannabis. We have retail and cultivation across 4 states. Right now in Ohio, we are headquartered in Cleveland. All of our staff, investors, everyone is from the Cleveland area. Last year during the 10B lottery process, we were awarded 4 licenses from the Division of Cannabis Control, one of which we placed in Cleveland Heights. I think about a third of our employees live, and I would say about a quarter of our employees live in Cleveland Heights. It's near and dear, real close to us, and super excited to get the store open. In relation to the drive-through, I guess one clarification, wanted to start off the bat, this is not a drive-through like a McDonald's or a Wendy's. This is a pickup window, similar to a CVS where you're going to pick up your prescription. There's no sales that are made in the drive-through. It is for online pickup orders only. For all sites, that is possible. This is an interesting one, being a 100-year-old mixed-use building that we're constrained with. All of our sites we are attempting to get drive-throughs on and have done quite a bit of research and study. We think it improves traffic throughout the neighborhood. On average, I would say it takes about 2.5 minutes per transaction. We typically have about 2 to 3 cars in our queue at one time. Our peak hours are around 4:30 to 5:30 every day, where we see about an average of 3 to 4 cars at one time. One of the things we had just had a similar situation at our Kansas City store. During those peak times for queuing, we do stick an employee outside to help direct the traffic. So we are aware from the traffic analysis studies we've been doing that during those peak times, we need additional coordination if a queue length is not long enough for these pickups. But these transactions are typically quick. A lot of them are paid online already. Essentially, they are coming to pick up, show their ID, pick up, and then leave from there. In relation, I guess, with this property, again, it being the 100-year-old building, it is obviously constrained with the parking. Obviously, no issues with employees going into the lot. That's not a problem. If you notice, was speaking with, not to disrupt any harmony in the neighborhood. That's why you see the additional spot there for Marchand Cheese. We did not want them to lose their parking ability, as we've discussed with them. But in relation to this, no, I think someone had asked, this is not necessary for the business. We do see it as a win for the neighborhood and a win for, again, our business with helping just keep traffic control going, using a drive-through method instead of parking, coming out and adding additional pedestrian traffic into the area there.
He answered a lot of the questions you had.
Go to the microphone.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm happy to go through. Do you have the drawings that we have prepared? This is one of them, of course, but as you've all stated, the entry is off of Tullamore Road. It is today an existing asphalt area. Yeah, go ahead. Thank you. And just going through the photographs that we've all, the area, as you can see today, the one challenge that we do have is just having to ramp up, of course, at the end of the drive-through up to meet the grade, which we do show on our site plan. But everything else that was described by Xavier is correct in terms of how this will operate and the existing conditions. We do acknowledge that there is a stair here that folks, I guess if they're coming from the garage and are walking down here, we will have a crosswalk and signage just to alert drivers, make sure they're aware that people might be walking there. It's still open, very visible, shouldn't hopefully be an issue. This stair would be going away. That goes down the basement. We have a plan for that. We don't need it per code, and that'll be through the building department. We'll get that permitted. But that will, of course, be going away and infilled, so we have our drive-through. Next sheet, please. Again, as you had mentioned, this is what the final product looks like once the other development is finished. To respond to your question about the turn, I do understand what you're saying. We do have a civil engineer on board. We're happy to study this further and make sure we can make that turn. It's a good point about that apartment development taking some time. They're making good progress for sure. But understanding that if they can't, if they can't exit to the north for some time, we'll make sure that car can make that turn, and we can study that further. If we have to submit a radius diagram for you to look at, that's no problem. We can do that for the planning commission too. Next sheet. Just an enlarged plan of, we've already looked at this one together. Drive-through is, of course, inside the building, and the window is located as far north as we could get it to allow for as much queuing as possible. And then once received, they will exit out onto that road. And that might set in. And just a plan of the actual dispensary and what we're doing here. It's going to be a really fantastic space. It's going to activate Lee Road. A lot of customers hopefully coming off there. We're very excited about it. I can tell you that my office does a lot of dispensaries, and drive-throughs have been really beneficial to these clients. Believe it or not, they see a lot of older clientele, folks that don't want to come into the store. And so they're highly used. But to Joe's point, they're not highly trafficked. The dispensaries do a very good job of organizing the times when pickup orders can be made so that they don't have queuing issues. And I think having the employee out there is a benefit as well. And so it really is a nice amenity for these locations to have. Many of my clients, in fact, do want them and have them. And I think that's the last page. And yeah, any questions, we're happy to answer them. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yep. I think only thing missed, someone had mentioned hours of operation. So we do 7 days a week. Right now we are doing 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. at night. And then on Sundays, Monday through Saturday. And then on Sundays, typically 10 to 6. To Dave's point earlier, we do see a lot of medical patients utilizing the drive-through more than anyone else. But again, we just want to emphasize the obviously hardship here is coming from the building, not from us, the client, but want to ensure that, I guess with that construction going on across the way, understanding if it does take some time, I guess finding out when, just because obviously the building, when that lot would actually open up would be two different, I guess, ways to look at it. Yeah, I'm happy to field any more questions.
We got to begin. It's probably better for staff. That's this business's hours of operations in the district. What are the longest permitted hours of operation?
So for a retail use, something that doesn't require a conditional use permit, they can be open 24 hours.
Yeah.
But in this case, because it is conditionally permitted, the Planning Commission can establish hours of operation. And I did want to go back to one of your earlier questions, if I may. When we talked about enforcement, if there was ever an issue, we could, residents could submit complaints, and then, their conditional use permit for the drive-through could possibly be revoked if those complaints are not resolved. And that would be true for any future use.
Thank you. Board, questions of the applicant?
Chair.
Yes.
I noticed that you had mentioned CVS as an example of the type of drive-through it is. In this neighborhood, there actually happens to be a CVS, and it's one of the few CVSs in the region, I would say, that does not have a drive-through because of the restrictions of the neighborhood. It's an older neighborhood, walkable because of the businesses, and they seem to thrive. Every time I'm in there, there's a huge line, despite the absence of a drive-through. Now, I presume, and you can say otherwise, I presume the reason why you want to be in this neighborhood is because of this same desirability of the neighborhood. And I also presume that you looked at the drive-through constraints when you first looked at this property, probably looked at some other properties, and you decided on this one, knowing that there are restraints and also knowing that your business is, hinged on, a substantial amount of drive-through business. What drew you to this property knowing those restraints?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer, as I was mentioning before, the first two licenses we had placed were in Lakewood and Cleveland Heights. We're a Cleveland company. We don't have a Cleveland location. So this is, again, Cleveland being home, for us. The character of the neighborhood, I guess even backing this up for the first question with the CVS, just relation to not just specifically CVS, any pharmacy where you could drive up and do your pickup at the window. I guess what's different here as well, when you place an order online, you have 1 day to pick it up. After that 1 day, the order is gone. So when those orders come in, let's say there's a slew of influx orders that just so happen to come in 1 hour, we have notice of that ahead of time, unlike, I guess, the unpredictability where you'd be picking up from a CVS or a Walgreens, Duane Reade, whatever pharmacy you'd be located at. But in relation to the neighborhood, obviously, I don't think there's any relatively newer buildings. We're working with the 100-plus-year-old building, I think, across pretty much, everything we have looked at here in the neighborhood and in other neighborhoods in Cleveland Heights. So in relation to that, I mean, with this being the option, I don't think we were aware of the particular constraints at the time when we, again, had acquired this. It was more for the neighborhood. This is something that we thought would enhance further as we've, continued to add these onto our properties and also improve traffic flow significantly at the locations we do have them.
Would you have a reasonable return on your investment if it was not approved?
I mean, it's tough to say. I mean, that's with, again, the other dispensary in town. This offers a level of convenience for, again, patients that, are in the medical program still, along with, for us, a differentiator for, against another, obviously dispensary located in Cleveland Heights. But in that relation, of course, it would be, I guess, tough to say, with a return on investment with or without. Again, this is a lot for us coming in. It's helpful to our business. It's helpful to the neighborhood, just again, to keep the traffic flowing throughout those, the back area, which, with that parking garage being a huge addition, I think that was one of the big sell points for us here is, parking being one of our biggest obstacles for sites. A lot of stuff we do typically is like a pad site, some out parcel, that's not so much in, a mixed use building. Again, the character of the neighborhood, the old building. This is one of the few, properties that worked all around for us and especially hit the box of parking.
Other questions? Yeah.
Mr. Chair, this is a question maybe more for city staff. The parking that's right behind their building on the access road, that is public parking, correct?
I believe so. And if
Yes.
I may check the photo. Or Karen's telling me it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Those
Sorry. These spots here.
spots. And
I'm sorry, which spots are we losing?
no, not spots that we're losing, spots those spots that are remaining that are on the access road. And so this picture was taken at 10 a.m., 10:30-ish today.
That's correct.
So during the daytime, those spots tend to be fairly open. At least today, they were relatively open. But maybe in the evenings, they're probably not as open just because people are at restaurants and stuff.
I mean,
So,
go ahead.
so parking, at least if you didn't have the drive-through parking, even if, not necessarily in the garage, but even parking directly behind your property would still be, close to get into the building.
Correct. And we do have entrance in the rear and on also Lee Road as well too. So you'll be able to access at any point from the front or the rear. I can see just from that photo, 2 of those cars are contractors for the site there as well too for us.
Okay, thank you.
I'm there all the time. When I go to Cedar Lee Theater, I'm on Tullymere. That's how I get there. A number of those spots are handicap spots, correct? Are we losing any handicap spots?
We're not losing any of the public handicap spots.
We're not proposing any loss of public parking. Obviously those spots anywhere in the garage.
I'm sorry, I was confused by your question. Where are the parking spots we're losing?
You want me to respond?
Whoever can help me out.
The spots are on our lot, not public.
All right, yeah. And those are used by multiple businesses?
Employee parking for the mixed use buildings or the mixed use property. There it is.
But conceivably, those people have access to the garage.
Directly behind, correct. Yep. We did preserve one for the Marchand Manor cheese. That was something we had discussed with the tenant.
We've got a pickup truck that unfortunately I get next to in many parking lots like that. Not unforeseeable that kind of truck is going to be going through there. How certain are we that truck can really make a right turn? Because I drive, when you're going into two-way traffic, correct?
That is correct.
Questions?
Yeah, I have one question. So Lee Road, which is, as we're looking at this picture here, it's going to be off to the left or going west. It's one lane going north and one lane going south. What you're proposing to have an employee out direct traffic if the traffic gets backed up on Tullamore Road between the busy times of 4:30 to 5:30?
Correct. And
What are they supposed to do to dispel the traffic? I mean, that's rush hour. That street, it's extremely busy with kids walking home after school and then rush hour traffic for after work. Where are they going to guide people they're going to tell them to get out of the queue and turn around somewhere so that traffic doesn't get backed up on Lee Road?
Yep. So like I was mentioning before, we'll have that predictability with the online orders ahead of time when hours are busy, not busy. So it's not just, there's a ton of cars outside randomly, that show up into the parking lot. So we have preparation for that.
You mean to schedule when they're going to come and pick it up?
Correct. So again, you schedule with the pickup. You can schedule with us within 1 hour period of pickup. So we'll know exactly when that person is coming, and the orders do not carry to the next day.
Would it be possible then to not have pickups between the hours of like 4:30 to 7 or something?
That is possible.
Well, that would also happen again, where there's more than rush hour.
Right. No, I understand.
For evening traffic, when all of these merchants are making their money.
Right.
Because again, getting into that, it's two-way on Tullamere. And anything on Tullamere is going to back up traffic forever.
Right, because anybody coming in on Tullamore, if they don't want to go to the dispensary, they're blocked from getting to that parking garage. And right now, that's basically the only way to get to that parking garage.
So before in the past, we've had either with a queuing system or numbering system where we would have that person essentially do a loop, or if that was, again, if there were multiple cars, we could have them directly park in the garage and then page them when ready to come in and enter into the queue. So it's just traffic mitigation or management on our part. But again, we just recently went through this same process and successfully have accomplished it.
All right, other questions? Stay by the mic. Yes.
And I don't expect you to know the answer to this question, but I'm curious. The only other dispensary in the area that I'm aware of is the one that's on Cedar and Green. Do they have a drive-through?
No, they do not.
Yes, Cedar Green does.
Sorry.
Do you have a drive-through?
Yeah, the certified, yes, it does.
Is there a dispensary on Coventry?
That's what I was referring to. That does not.
Coventry one is not.
Correct.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Coventry dispensary does not have, I did that one, does not have a drive-through. Yeah.
Put it.
Right, exactly right.
Some of what you're hearing, just to explain, is that, as I mentioned before, and the interest in management and being a good member of this community is evident. But what this board has to think about is you may not be there forever. The variance is forever. And in a conditional use, we could have a restaurant. We could have lots of different businesses that don't have the controls that you are able to put in, and we really appreciate that. But that's some of the hesitancy you're hearing from the board. All right. Yes, sir.
One last comment. Excuse my voice, we're losing here. We did purchase the entirety of the building, so that is under our ownership, for if that helps any.
Well, for now.
Yes,
No.
for now. But we do not plan on moving anytime soon out of here.
One does. All right. Stay there. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to testify in this case? Yes, ma'am. Have you been sworn in? And you need to be sworn in before you go up. Please stand.
Will you affirm to testify to the truth? Yes.
You could give her room. If you could come to the microphone, and as with others, please begin by stating your name and address for the record, please, and then share whatever you'd like us to hear.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Candace Marchant. I'm the owner for Marchant Manor Cheese at 2211 Lee Road. I would like to state that I appreciate the care that they've done with the planning for this facility, and it seems like they've really taken a lot of things into consideration in the neighborhood. I also appreciate that they have left me one parking space in the back. My question for the applicants is, of the 4 spaces that were there, my space, the rent thereof was included in my lease. So if I had lost that parking space, I would have sought compensation for the loss of that parking space, which they have not done. I don't know about the other tenants and the use of the other spaces, whether any of that was included in the lease. So that would be my question for the applicants, if there's any compensation for the loss of those parking spaces. Yes, they can use the garage, but if it was included in their lease, there should be some financial compensation for that.
I'm not going to argue that that's not something the board can take care of.
Right.
But that's something
I wanted to raise that. The one zoning question that I have is I've been at the business, I'm right at the corner at 2211 Lee and Tullamore, and we have windows out to Tullamore. It is a very busy street, especially in the evenings when Cedar Lee lets out and when people are picking up to-go orders at the restaurants. And there are often cars parked on both sides of the street, even though the signs say that they are not supposed to be parking on those sides. I am concerned that with only 3 vehicles in this, I know, if they have somebody directing traffic, but even with that, I am concerned with the traffic on that part of Tullamore off of Lee. From a zoning perspective, that maybe the city could have more strict no parking on the sides of the streets, because I think it can be very hazardous. And I know it's beyond the discussion for this variance, but that crosswalk on Lee across Tullamore is very dangerous, and there is a lot of traffic there. And I don't know if there are any considerations whether, a stoplight at that light would help with this and traffic mitigation through the dispensary in the back. But I am just very concerned as a business owner there that there are so many people crossing there. It is, I think, a hazardous crossing.
Do you mind if I ask you a question?
Sure.
Could you stay by the microphone if you could, but just turn and point to show us where your parking spot is that you get to keep?
I believe it's right here. I have a loading dock on the other side of that fence, and I believe that they have designated this as a parking. They have designated that as a parking space for me to keep.
If there was backup in the line, would that interfere with that car's ability to get in or out of the parking spot?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify in this matter? If not, and if the applicant or the applicant's representative wants to come back and address anything that was raised?
If you could swing back to the diagram please.
Which one?
The site plan, please. Yep. All right, so if you notice, that's obviously with a 3-car proposed cube, there would be room to get out for the parking here, as the cars wouldn't impede the space directly behind.
Other questions of the applicant? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Someone have a motion?
I would like to,
We need a we need a motion before we discuss.
Mr. Chair, I would like to motion to table this, agenda item, calendar number, what it?
3622.
Yeah, sorry, I have all my papers mixed up. Calendar number 3622, to next month, pending, the applicant providing vehicle turning diagrams for the right turn movements out of the drive-through for multiple vehicles, not just a standard passenger vehicle.
So that would be a motion to continue?
Yes.
Right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion in front of us, and it's a specific motion, and the requirement is that we be provided with information to demonstrate the typical turning radius of various vehicles?
Yes.
All right. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there discussion on that motion?
Yes, I would like to include some type of traffic analysis, just to get a sense of, to address the issues that have been raised by the board and the public about possible backup. Could cars, if there is a backup, how would cars be able to get around, et cetera?
All right, that'd be a motion to amend the motion.
Motion to amend the motion, yes.
Ms. Lewin, is that fine with you?
Yeah.
All right, so the motion is to continue the application with the request that the applicant, and we can schedule this for next month, that the applicant provide two things. One, information on the study of the turning radius coming out of the north end of the drive-through. And second, more information on the traffic flow and potential traffic effects on other than 10 o'clock on a weekday morning. And again, the reason for this is, and for those here, as much as all of the assurances from the owner are reassuring, and at least to this member they are, is that, as I've said a couple of times now, a restaurant, a store, any permitted use in this district could get the benefit of this variance without requirement that they be as cooperative and have the foresight that this applicant has in this application. And so, I mean, our alternatives would be to continue for that information or make a decision based upon the information we have right now. And I'm not sure that second option is better for the applicant. Other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right. We will hopefully see you next month. All right. Let us move on to calendar number 3624, the application of Cadet Ventures LLC at 2094 Lamberton Road, located in A single-family district, requesting a variance to code section 1121.12A2 to permit a garage with living space to be less than 5 feet from the rear and side lot lines. Would anyone wishing to testify in this matter please stand to be sworn?
Please affirm to testify to the truth.
Next month, someone remind me to get the applicant's application in the record. I failed to do that. No, we can do that. Thank you. Thank you. All right. All right, let's turn to the staff presentation in calendar number 3624. And before you begin the presentation, request that unless there are objections, I ask that the staff report dated January 16, 2026 be entered into the record. Seeing and hearing no objections, the report is so entered. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is calendar number 3624, Cadet Ventures LLC at 2094 Lamberton Road in an A single-family district, requesting variance to code section 1121.12A2 to permit a garage with living space to be less than 5 feet from the rear and side lot lines. For context, the property is a single-family home in an A single-family district. The property is at the northwest corner of Lamberton Road in East Derbyshire. Yes, yeah, and East Derbyshire Road, sorry. Properties west of 2094 Lamberton Road are Zone B 2-family. All other properties immediately around 2094 Lamberton Road are Zone A single-family. The master plan future land use map shows that the parcel will be used for detached single-family purposes. The applicant proposes converting the loft of their garage into a living space. The parcel is a code-conforming lot in terms of area and width. The parcel is 13,390 square feet in area, 65 feet wide at the building line. A code-conforming A single-family parcel has an area of 7,500 square feet and a minimum width of 50 feet. According to county records, the home and garage were constructed in 1910. The rear yard is 87.4 feet deep, which is larger than the minimum of 30 feet deep. The proposed renovation will not change the footprint of the existing garage. The existing garage is a code-conforming distance from the northern side property line, but a non-conforming distance from the rear property line. is 3.2 to 3.3 feet from the northern side property line and 1.6 feet from the rear property line. Garages are required to be 3 feet from side and rear property lines. With the addition of the living space, the garage is required to follow the standards of pool houses, other similar buildings. Pool houses, other similar buildings are required to be 5 feet from the rear and side property lines, which means that the applicant requires a variance to add living space. The existing garage is 490 square feet in a code-conforming size in terms of rear yard coverage, the maximum floor area for a private parking garage permitted at the site. The garage will continue to provide 2 off-street parking spaces after the renovation as required by code. Here's a look at the garage in the context of the primary home as you head down East Derbyshire. Here is a view of the garage from the front yard of the property west of the applicant. As you can see, despite the close setback, there are no windows facing this property. Here's another look at the narrower 1.6 foot setback that's being requested for the variance. On the other side, here's a look at the 3.2 to 3.3 setback. As you can see, the neighbor's garage is probably built too close to the property line. And I couldn't get a good photo of it, but there is a small boarded up window facing this neighbor's property.
Which is, on that picture, which is the applicant's property, which is the neighbor's?
In this photo, the applicant's property is on the left side and the neighbor's property is on the right side. Excuse me, the left side of that fence that you see in the center.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Yeah, the applicant's garage is on the left side of the image and left of that fence, and the neighbor's property is on the right side, on the right of that fence. The applicant included this photo that shows the loft space that will be converted. In the center of this photo, towards the back, you can see the boarded up window that faces that northern property line. It's where that little bit of light is coming through. I included this photo to give you context of the backyard, of the backyards near the applicant. On the right side, one of the neighbors has 2 doors down, has a carriage house with a similar shape. Here's another photo of that carriage house at the neighboring property. But more generally in the neighborhood, you see single-story detached garages or attached garages. If approved, conditions should include calendar number 3624 is granted to code section 1121.12A2 to permit a garage with living space to be 1.6 feet from the rear lot line and 3.2 to 3.3 feet from the side lot line as shown on the drawing submitted to BZA. Receipt of a building permit, complete construction within 12 months, the effective date of this variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Board, are there questions for staff? There's a pause. I'll ask one, and this is, as you know, from when we have these living spaces close to property lines. Do any of those windows overlook a neighbor's structure and give views of windows or other activity spots on the neighbor's property?
The one window that meets that description is the window that is currently boarded up. So this is the photo that you can see from the applicant. So that back, if that window was to be replaced with a window that wasn't boarded up, that would be looking into their neighbor's backyard.
Where in this picture is that window?
Yeah.
On the very back? Okay. And that would overlook what?
That would overlook the neighbor's backyard and garage.
Okay.
So the windows in the center of the structure.
Okay, right there. Got it.
It's hard to photo.
Is this construction already underway or completed and now they're coming for a variance?
The construction is not underway, to my knowledge. The garage is an existing garage.
Oh, okay.
With the loft space that is already there that's used for storage.
Board, other questions? I'll ask, on the first slide, there was some red writing that talking about encroachment. Is that the neighbor's encroachment onto their property?
Oh, on the site plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is their wood fence encroaches slightly on the neighbor's property, closer to the front of the property.
It also says our roofed area encroaches 1 foot 3 inches or 1.3 feet, one of the two.
Correct.
Is that an existing roofed area that encroaches?
That is an existing area.
That's interesting. Other questions? If not, if the applicant could please approach the microphone, and as with others, please state your name and address, please.
Good evening. I'm Alicia Cadet, and this is my husband, Steve Cadet.
Your address is?
2094 Lamberton Road, Cleveland Heights, Ohio.
I believe you submitted an application in support.
Yes,
To the best of your knowledge and information, is that application true and accurate?
yes.
All right. So again, please proceed with however you would like to present. And again, anything that helps us with the factors that go into our decision, that would be helpful.
So we purchased the home as an investment property, and a lot of what you're seeing had already been done to the property. So the windows were already in place. And the framing on the inside was already done. So it did not have zoning approvals. So once we purchased the property, we investigated and found out that we did need to do the zoning, and so here we are.
All right. If you could explain, I mean, again, explain what the need for the variance and why we should grant it.
We are rehabbing the entire property. Inside is completely gutted, and so it will be a 5-bedroom, 4.5 bathroom inside. And since the work had already been started to do the loft space, we thought it would improve the property for the new owners once everything is done. With the picture of the window that's on the side, that one, so that's already completely removed, and we're actually residing the entire garage. So that's all going to be blocked in. So no window will be there either way. So we're just looking to improve the space, and, you know, I feel it's already done this way, and the previous owners were doing it without the zoning variance. So if we could get the zoning variance approved, then at least that would stop whoever's purchasing the property from just going ahead and finishing it up without the variance, that is.
All right. Thank you. Board, questions? Yes.
Are there any changes that you're planning to the exterior other than residing? You're not planning
No.
to change the footprint?
No.
Height or?
Nothing, absolutely, no.
So this is the original shape of the garage?
Of the garage, yes.
Original?
Yes,
All
as
of
we
the-
purchased
All of
it.
the work that we see that, you know, obviously wasn't done in 1910, is just a replacement of what was originally.
Originally there, yes.
Still the loft that was original.
That's, yes, absolutely.
Questions? Other questions?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, so how do people get up to from the garage, from the first floor, how do you get up to the second floor?
It has stairs built up.
Internal stairway?
Yes, it does, yes.
Okay, and I think you testified to this already, but I wasn't clear. That rear window is not going to?
No, it won't. They're actually doing the siding now, and so we've already removed all that. It's already blocked in. So as they do the siding, it's all going to be gone.
So it'll just be those two windows that we
Just-
saw in the other picture?
So there's two that's facing the back of the house.
Those two? will be
Those
the
two,
only-
yes.
Those will be removed?
And then there's 3 to the side.
Yeah.
Those 3, yeah.
Okay,
So those will be the only windows there, yeah.
got it,
And
thank
these
you.
three, they are facing
The
our
road.
backyard.
Yeah, in the road.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I have a couple of questions. One, are there already utilities running to the garage,
The
like
garage.
sanitary, water, those kind of utilities?
No,
No.
not yet.
Not yet,
Yes.
okay.
So we're not planning on putting a bathroom in there. So it's just, so the only thing we'd run there is electricity.
Okay.
Yes.
Then I guess my question is for, my next follow-up question would be for staff would be, so this would be, what would this would qualify, so this would not qualify as like an ADU type thing, this would qualify as just, what would this is why they don't have to go for that other type of variance,
Yeah.
just a habitable space variance.
That's correct. So since they're not going to have the kitchen and they're not, so a dwelling unit is defined as living space, kitchen, and a bathroom. So in this case, because they won't have a kitchen or a bathroom, it's just living space. So that's why it's in that same bucket as a pool house or a backyard office. Those are
Okay.
other types of accessory structures where there's some human activity where we require the larger setback.
So this is not an apartment, this is not, I keep hitting my microphone, sorry. This is not a potential Airbnb, this is not anything like that. This is just an office space, a play space for kids, something like that. There's no bathroom, there's no water, there's no kitchen. It's just a finished space on the second floor. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
That's exactly, yes.
Got it.
Other questions? If not, do we have a motion? I'm sorry, is there anyone else in the audience who wishes to testify? All right. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Regarding calendar number 3624 Cadet Ventures LLC, 2094 Lamberton Road, I move to grant the application for the variance with conditions to code section 112112A2 to permit a garage with a living space to be less than 5 feet from the rear of the side lot lines. I find that there are special conditions and circumstances that exist at this property, and that first and foremost being that the proposed plan does not change in any way the footprint of the existing garage as it was built in 1910 with an above garage loft. There are no plans to include running water, therefore the location can't be turned into more than the living space that is proposed. The variance is insubstantial as it's not changing the nature of the property at all. The essential character of the neighborhood would not change as the existing garage is already there. There's no evidence that the variance would adversely affect the delivery of government services. And if granted, the variance should have the following conditions. Calendar number 3624 granted to code section 112112A2 to permit a garage with living space to be 1.6 feet from the rear lot line and 3.2 to 3.3 feet from the side lot line as shown in the drawing submitted to BZA. Receipt of a building permit and complete construction within 12 months of the effective date of this variance.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The vote is unanimous. The variance is granted. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, I believe staff has a request with regard to calendar number 3625, the application of M. Newell at 2618 Ashton Road.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm requesting that this application be continued to the March BZA meeting on behalf of the applicant. Staff realized today upon a site visit the need to advertise for an additional variance.
All right. Thank you. Do we have a motion to continue?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to continue.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Calendar number 3625 is continued to next month. Is there any old business?
Mr. Chair, calendar number 3573 at 3360 Berkeley Road, which was a case heard in November 2024 for a new home construction. That variance has expired. There has been no construction work done at the site. It is the home builder's intention to reapply.
So we'll start over again.
Exactly.
Pool house?
Yes, I believe.
All right, disappointing. Any new business?
Including that case, we have one other new application for next month.
So there'll be 3 total.
4 total, including the first case.
4, okay, all right. Very good. Well, we'll have a meeting. And the date of that meeting is March
18th, I believe.
18th, okay. All right. There being nothing further, we adjourn the meeting at 8:05.